Welcome to Shared Insights, the podcast from BA Insight. My name is Pete Wright, and I'm joined today by Mark Christianson, Digital Experience Delivery Senior Lead, Global Services at Mars, Inc. Mark is here to talk to us about data, mountains of data, and the constant challenge to stay ahead of the needs of tens of thousands of business associates at the company to help them do their jobs better. Mark, welcome to Shared Insights.
Thanks, Pete.
What does that title mean?
What
It's a big title. There's a lot of words in that title.
That's a lot. Yeah, it is. Wait till you see the business card.
Is it a front and back, or is it just like a trifold?
It wraps. It wraps all the way around. So Mars has a digital workplace, and inside a digital workplace are three teams: Digital Experience, which is my team, and we do the custom development and kind of the user experience design. So we try to make associates happy. That's what our job is, and we call everybody at Mars an associate. So if you hear that a lot, that's our word for employees.
Okay.
There's no employees at Mars. We're all associates, and so we make associates happy through the user interface, making things slicker, easier to use. That kind of thing. And then the other two teams in digital workplace are digital collaboration. So those are guys that kind of run some of the big tools, Skype and Office 365 and such. And then we have digital adoption. And that team actually does, they're the non-nerds. They translate English to geek and back. And they go out there and they tell the Martians what's going on inside our group. And then they tell us what's going on out there and what their pain points are, and so we can see if we can address them.
You refer to associates as Martians?
Everybody at Mars does, yeah.
I don't think I've ever been more excited. Where can I apply?
Jobs.mars.com.
Amazing, fantastic. Right. Let's set the context for us with this conversation. Let's start off with a story of your data challenges. What is it that what is the kind of data that you're building, and what are you trying to do with it to help folks?
Well, I think we have the same challenge a lot of companies do. Shy of the fact that we're 106 years old, the company has been spending the last 30 or 40 years now, in the computer age, just amassing information. And one of our big challenges is what is going on in the market. That's a constant challenge at Mars and most companies, just to understand the customer, understand what's going on in the world and how that impacts our business. So what's been going on over the last few years is we've just been piling up data, and usually faster than we can read it, and more in more formats than we can read. So what's going on now is there's a big push to change things, be able to create insights off of the data, and that's to make it readable, which I say is kind of the data is first, and then you actually have to make it into information. So that's something you can consume, and then you can turn it into knowledge, is something you can act on. And those are the factors that we're really working on now, is with machine learning and high-end analytics packages, BI. We're really trying to just understand what we're being told, what we might not see, and the computers are now able to kind of show us what the patterns are. So that's kind of what we're doing, is just looking at it and saying, how do we take that intelligence and look at things and not just do ask and answer, what do we think we know, and then try to prove that out, but try to find out what are the patterns we probably aren't seeing in the information, and then take that and learn from it, and then be able to act on it proactively.
Throwing these, machine learning and all these the kinds of new tools to interpret the data is one thing. How do you talk about the scale of data that you're talking about? When you talk about mountains of data, how much data are you talking about?
Wow, I probably would have to get the engineering team involved on that discussion. So we're currently working on what's termed in the business a data lake, and I have a feeling, living here in Chicago, it's probably bigger than Lake Michigan. We're talking about a global company that works with people all over. We're in 80 countries, over 500 locations. Each one of those is just pulling data, is just creating data, is working with vendors that are actually helping us generating data. We're partnering with other people for data. So it's staggering, the amount of information that's coming in. And one of the things that's a real challenge at Mars is the time to get to it all. How do you find the time to sift through all this information, and even if you can make it accessible? And so that's one of the big challenges, is just trying to find ways to make the data accessible, the ways to make data relatable to each other, so one pile of data, matches something else in the other. Otherwise, you're looking at things in silos. So it's a real challenge.
Right. Well, and that actually gets to the question, right? That you have so much data, and the average associate can only take in and process so much. So how do you find a way to make this data useful? How do you approach the data in a way that it is actually of utility to the people who need it when they need it?
Well, so Mars has really made a push into digital. And, to the point where last year when our CIO retired, we brought in a new CIO and changed the term. So he's now the Chief Digital Officer. And that tells you what Mars is trying to do in the market digitally across the entire business, everything. Digital isn't a seat at the table. It is the table, as he likes to say. So we keep that in mind. And we're developing a massive analytics piece to look at, use different tools. And right now there's a lot of experimentation going on at Mars, from Power BI, Tableau. Once you start to look at the data, you have to look at what ways we can get friendly. So we've got the human piece of this. We've got the BI piece. How can I look at graphs and charts and things and see it? But then we've got the machine learning, which is how do we teach a machine to see patterns that we can't in data faster than we can process it, and in ways that are more friendly to the computers. And I think that's probably where we're spending the most time and energy, is trying to see what we can do on the machine learning side, because we really feel like people are going to be able to act on the data, but the machines are going to be able to actually go through and understand. So really teaching the machines the patterns we expect to see, the pieces that it needs to see, and then have it pull out the insights. And I think that's, for us, that's kind of the brass ring right now.
How do you assess where the pain points are for your associates in terms of, you use the word friendly. I mean, in terms of having folks sit down, 8 o'clock in the morning, day one, and feel where their pain is. Is it around, bringing in different sources of data from different discrete systems? Is it, putting a friendly front end face on multiple systems, tying them together? What does that look like?
Humans are visual animals. We don't react well to a big spreadsheet of data. We don't see the patterns that way. And as I sit and look at waveforms, it's all patterns. We need to find ways to show the associates information in new and interesting ways. One of the ways that we recently started to look at it is to take information and start to put it into VR and AR. So the HoloLens is one of the ones we're playing with. Is, can we visualize information in graphs and 3D space in such a way that we can create an interface that lets people dig in. Point to something they're interested in and see the numbers behind it, or dig deeper into that information to see what it is. Because one of the challenges you end up with is, even if you ask a question, you might get the answer back and it might lead to another question. You're down the rabbit hole, so to speak. So that's one of the things I think we're trying to do, is how do we make information approachable and digestible? And this is probably one of the biggest things that we're just trying to get our head around it. And there's a lot of experimentation at Mars. We're getting our hands on a lot of different technology and pressing the boundary in a number of different ways. But I guess one of the things that we try to do is listen more. We're doing more of what we call zero distance to customer, and that applies not only in the marketplace, with trying to understand who we are, who's consuming our products, but it also comes back to what we do at Mars, for the associates. How do we get zero distance to the customer, our fellow associates, people that we talk to all the time, understand what they're trying to find out, so we can create the proper insights.
So let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, how are you using analytics internally to determine more accurately what your associates are looking for? You triggered something for me. It's that old quote: people won't know what to ask for until you show them, right? I mean, they don't even know what they're asking for until you look at the data and show them what they're looking for.
perfect example. So we're going through search analytics right now, and that's one of the big things that I've done in the last year for Mars is kind of get kind of a search engine for Mars, and we're building that out further. But we call that an ask and answer system. What we want to do is we want to create insights. We want to see what we can do to understand who's looking at this, and maybe offer something. Because you're doing this, we're going to offer you that because it makes sense. So what we're doing is something as simple as a word cloud and saying, what is it that people have been looking for in the last 24, 48, 30 days, whatever it is. The word cloud is remarkably insightful because it tells us what people are really looking at without looking at who's looking at it. It's just trying to understand what kinds of things are going through there. And the word cloud has been really valuable for us because it tells us where to go next. One of the big challenges we had was, okay, so what sources do we pull in? What information do we go after? There's 1,100 websites or something in the network, and should we index them all? And do you drink from the fire hose? Or do we be very intentional about going after information and indexing just the sites based on need and interest? And so we decided to kind of let the associates be the guide. And we've watched over their shoulder. We look at these word clouds. We see that they're interested in HR type terms and certain things that come up in technical help. So these are the areas that we go after. And analytics is the only way that we can really understand. You can ask people what they're interested in, but you're going to have to pull. We've got 111,000 associates worldwide in multiple different languages, and we just can't get to them. There's 24 of us on the team. And so analytics really lets us drive it down to what are they doing, because even when you get into the interviews, sometimes what they tell you they're doing isn't exactly what they're doing. They don't even realize it. And this lets us get to the heart of the matter with it, dispassionately.
I imagine, I think about that top sort of 100 word cloud. I'm curious what the second 100 word cloud looks like in terms of frequency of searches.
That's an interesting point. That gets back to what we're talking about with machine learning. We like to take the, skim off the top 50, top 100, whatever that is. With machine learning, what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to take everything and then give it to a machine and let it go through and say, what is it? Given everything, let's look at translations. Let's look at words that are kind of like this. What can we learn if we look at it all? And I think that's kind of the paradigm shift with analytics and machine learning is going to let us narrow things down so that we can look at the right things. Where before we were struggling just to kind of scrape off the top surface and say, okay, we're going to put a pretty picture on the top surface. How do we really look at all of it? Because what if in the next 100, as you put it, what if in the next 100 there was a really big insight and we were just missing it?
What's your biggest surprise so far in doing this work?
There's a real passion for the changes in the technology and making computers more understand us better. And I really thought that was an IT thing. All the nerds out there, right? We're huddled around a computer screen and getting excited about it. But really seeing the technology, is everywhere, and seeing that people really just want it. The technology is really kind of in everything. And there's a passion for people they want to get things done. They're not afraid of it anymore. They really want to use it to drive the subject and make themselves better, do things faster.
It's interesting. You referred to Mars as a digital company earlier in our conversation, and I think that's a fascinating observation because I imagine from the outside it doesn't. I certainly wouldn't first think of Mars as a digital company, but hearing you talk about it and hearing the enthusiasm from your teams and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of associates who demonstrate for you that they're digital people and this is a digital company. That's got to be empowering to you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've got, I would say out of the 110,000 associates, about 50 or 60,000 of them are business associates. So they use technology on a regular basis. Others are in the plant, but it's staggering. You go to one of our plants, and whether you're making dog food or Skittles, it's there's technology that's everywhere. It's Internet of Things devices reporting different stuff on the floor. We just did something to say, when you change product line information, how do you do that? How do we make that get away from printed sheets and turn that into augmented reality solutions? So it's changing everything about our company. And for a company that is, foods, grains, confection, pet care, it's an interesting piece to say, we're doing really digital things. Our new CDO came in last year and he said, okay, so Mars is a 106-year-old company. They're going to have dinosaur processes. We're going to go in here. We're going to talk about VR. And we were like, hey, we're doing that. and then he was like, oh, you guys have an open floor plan. Nobody has an office. You guys followed from Google and Amazon. And the person that was walking around said, this has been this way for as long as I've been here. I've been here for 30 years. So I think that was the big thing, is Mars is... It's promoted its brands for a long time and not really talked about Mars as a company. And now we're finally in a position where we're really kind of saying we really want to bring talent and really have that energy. And what we're doing with the scale of the company that we have is pretty impressive. I'm extremely proud to work there, and it's just it's amazing to see at this scale a company that can move this fast, going from a mandated typical process of we're going to build something, it's going to be 18 months and you pour $1 million into it, to the attitude that our new CDO says is, I don't want anything to go over 3 months. I want to move fast. I want this stuff to be application type, where we say it'll be rough around the edges, but we'll give it to you in 3 months or less, and let the associates decide if this lives or dies. And I think that's a huge change for a company our size.
So what's next for a company your size, for a company that is clearly a digital company? What are the things that are on your hot list that you feel you're in a position to help continue to develop and improve at Mars?
As I mentioned, machine learning is huge. That is a crazy subject going on. So AI, machine learning, being close to the customer, we really kind of pride ourselves on the personal angle. Don't get too wrapped up, but I think the excitement is in the next generation technologies. VR and AR, as odd as it sounds, and doing some augmented reality pieces really got everybody really excited. I'm really pleased to kind of be working in that space and seeing what we can do. But there's a lot of people. We have a very robust Yammer social networking groups that bring up new things all the time. And we're really fortunate to have a leadership that is fostering those things and saying, you typically bring these up and say, hey, this is a cool new thing. And then they say, great, when can I see a demo? Instead of where's the business case or where's the use case? They really want to see us drive and succeed. And so next gen technologies, that's kind of what Mars is working on.
That's fantastic. That sounds like you're in a lucky position.
Absolutely. No, like I said, I wake up every day and I work long days, and I never complain, because my mother always said, find something you love to do and then find someone stupid enough to pay you for it. And no, while I love Mars and they're not stupid, they pay me for it, and I love to do it. And it's really, it makes the passion and makes the energy just easy to come by.
Where do you, or I should say, is there a place where you send folks, external folks, to learn more about what's going on in the business of Mars, not just about the products?
Mars.com has a lot of information, and then we have a number of offshoot sites. I mean, we're Sustainable in a Generation is one of the huge initiatives. Mars last year announced putting $1 billion towards sustainability after the Paris stuff, and just said let's do it and lead the pack. So there's a lot of information there, different things. You can definitely just go to Mars.com, but we're very active on Facebook and Twitter and many of the other social media.
Well, this has been fantastic. Mark Christianson, thank you so much for sitting down to talk with us today and our audience at Shared Insights. It sounds like you've got a lot to teach.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, and always happy to talk about Mars.
And you're a Martian. And I can say that I did that today. That's my highlight. I interviewed a Martian.
There you go.
Thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to this show. We sure appreciate you finding us. You can subscribe to the show for free in Apple Podcasts or iTunes, anywhere the finer podcasts are served. Of course, you can download each and every episode over at our website at bainsight.com. On behalf of Mark Christianson and Mars Inc. and all of the 116,000 Martians, I'm Pete Wright. We'll catch you next time right here on Shared Insights, the podcast from BA Insight.